Alright guys, this is a video I made because I saw the opportunity and I took it, so it's kind of spare of the moment. Alright, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you might remember a video I made trying to show the importance of building regulations with a mashup of this and news reports. And you might also remember a video I made where I drew Sydney's Opal Tower and talked about why that's a crumbling piece of shit. And in that video I also mentioned why I'm so familiar with the construction game, and that's because by trade I'm a wall and floor tiler. And as I said at the start of this, how I saw an opportunity and I took it, what I mean by that is I was walking past a construction site and I saw this. So I took a little square of it to come and show you guys. This is what they're building the top story of these townhouses out of. Now I believe this is polyethene or polyethylene. I couldn't tell you the difference right now. Could just be pronunciation, could be the actual chemical structure. I'll get back to you. But yeah, it's essentially the same as that foam you get in boxes when you buy something new, and it shouldn't be damaged and it's held in place. You know what I'm talking about. Probably the last electronic gadget you bought probably came surrounded in it. Last laptop or speakers, whatever. And yeah, this is what they're building houses out of, guys. They had pallets of sheets full of them, like probably 1.5 meters by 2.5 meters. So they look like full wall panels. And they've got like this meshing on one side of it. And at first when I would walk past this site, because I walk past it quite often, I thought they were huge Hebel blocks. Because I work with Hebel, we use it to brick up tubs and hobs around the edge of showers and stuff, and it's essentially just aerated concrete. I bought some from work to also feature in this video. Now, do you guys remember the bowling ball test that they used to do with vacuum cleaners, and like to show you how good the suction is by picking up a bowling ball? Well, I've come up with my own little test for building materials. If you can ram a pencil into it, you probably shouldn't build your house out of it. Just my little theory. And it should be called the pencil test. Alright, so our packaging foam wall panel did not pass the pencil test. And for another experiment, I thought we'll take it outside, and to avoid my neighbours thinking I'm crazy, I can promise you, Hebel doesn't light. So I didn't try to light the Hebel up. Tried it before, it doesn't work, not very flammable. Aerated concrete, not very flammable. But this stuff, I thought, just in the name of science, we'll do it out in front of the hose so you guys are sure of my safety. I took precautions, I shooed my cat away, and I lit a little bit up, and it fucking went up, son. Alright, now this was a very important test, because this stuff here is what I believe to be a component in cladding, in particular aluminium compost cladding. Because can we please at least regulate the materials that we use on building sites? Please. Because what cost 72 people their lives, other than a spark that was caused by a dodgy refrigerator, the reason the building was engulfed so violently was because it was decked out with this fucking cladding. See, I got those goosebumps again talking about it. So can we just not build our buildings out of flammable crap? Come on, guys, we live somewhere where we have bushfires and they're gonna get worse. And so we're building buildings and wrapping them in flammable shit. And why are they doing it? Because it's a cheap material. And why are they using cheap materials? To save money for more profits, usually for the people at the top. Because it's not like the individual tradies usually get to pick the materials that the fucking whole building's built out of. And if you see any architect companies, building companies, corporations donating to your politicians, that's usually because they don't want regulations on how to treat their workers or what materials to use or how to pay their workers or how well to build the buildings. So yeah, when a corporation's fucking with you, it's in more ways than just paying less tax than you. Alright, just so this isn't me angrily yelling into a microphone, I'll read you this that I found. Why aluminium composite cladding is flammable and how buildings can be made safe. Belinda Smith from earlier this year, March, ABC Science. The Grenfell Tower fire started in an apartment on the 4th floor. Within hours, the entire building was engulfed in flames. It took just 90 minutes for fire to race up 20 stories of the Grenfell Tower in June 2017, killing 72 people. Last month, a cigarette sparked a blaze that quickly jumped 5 floors of Melbourne's Neo 200 building. Both buildings and plenty of others like them were covered in aluminium composite cladding. It's not the only type of flammable cladding out there, but what is it about aluminium composite cladding that encourages fires to spread particularly quickly? Most aluminium composite cladding consists of a layer of plastic sandwiched between 2 aluminium sheets. And it is the plastic layer, usually made of polyethene, also called polyethylene, that is the main culprit. Polyethene isn't only found in cladding, not by a long shot. It's everywhere, making roughly a third of all manufactured plastics. What makes it so versatile is the molecular structure. Long chains of monomer units comprising carbon with hydrogen atoms hanging off of them. The structure of polyethene molecule made of carbon, black, hydrogen, white atoms. If the chain branches off into loads of smaller chains, you get low-density polyethene. That's the flexible plastic that you find wrapped around food, for instance. The stuff used in cladding is high-density polyethene, or HDPE. HDPE chains don't have many branches, so they pack beside each other tightly. This gives plastic rigidity, a quality you want in construction, but it also has plenty of less desirable qualities. Fire spreads in a few different ways. Materials engineers use a figure called the combustibility ratio to give an idea of how flammable a fuel is, said Kate Nugent, who leads a fire and facade engineering group at RMIT University. Put very simply, the ratio is calculated by dividing the amount of heat released from burning material by the amount of heat needed to ignite it. The higher the number, the more flammable the material. Red oak, for instance, is pretty low. It has a combustibility ratio of 3. The combustibility ratio of HDPE is 25, Dr. Nugent said. That means it produces 25 times more heat than it takes to combust. And this is a big reason why HDPE fires spread so quickly. A burning chunk of HDPE provides more than enough heat to ignite any HDPE sitting close enough to it, which can ignite the patch next to it, and so on. Damage from a fire on the Neo 200 building on Spencer Street in Melbourne. Another danger of using polyethene in construction is the way it falls apart when exposed to heat, called its pyrolysis mechanism. Usually the long chains of carbon and hydrogen in HDPE are tightly packed together. That's what makes the material so stiff. But when HDPE is on fire, those chains break apart at random points. The solid plastic turns to a liquid, Dr. Nugent said. Cladding is usually installed vertically, so when HDPE melts, it will drip down. Cladding fires aren't only spread by HDPE. Aluminium can help things along because it's an excellent conductor of heat. If it gets hot enough, aluminium can convey that heat to the HDPE underneath. Then when the aluminium melts, it's exposed to preheated HDPE to oxygen, accelerating its combustion. Top hats, which secure cladding to the building, create cavities behind cladding. These cavities funnel heat and smoke to the outside of the building like chimneys, Dr. Nugent said. And you might have 2 or 3 cavities like between combustible installations and cladding, which add more types of fuel to the system. So a fire starting in cladding on the 5th floor of a building, for instance, can spread all directions up thanks to flames and smoke in cavities. Down because of hot liquid, HDPE ignites more HDPE as it drips down, and even sideways as aluminium spreads heat. So what can be done? An obvious place to start is to lower HDPE's combustibility ratio by introducing a flame retarding material. Some flame retardants like aluminium trioxide work a couple of ways. Having aluminium trioxide in the HDPE will reduce the amount of polyethylene in the system, so there's less fuel, Dr. Nugent said. When exposed to heat, it absorbs heat, decomposes, and releases water vapor, which helps cool and dilute the smoke. But if HDPE contains a flame retardant, it's still combustible, just less so. At the moment, buildings deemed high risk by cladding audits are having their flammable cladding taken off and replaced. This apartment block in inner Melbourne was found to have a high risk combustible cladding and is quoted to cost more than $1 million to fix. It's expensive, costing $1 million or more for apartment blocks. Dr. Nugent said there's a cheaper way that's just as safe. Introduce vertical fire breaks. These work in the same ways as fire breaks around houses in grasslands and bushlands. Create a barrier that stops the fire spreading. If you replace half of the cladding with fire breaks, then it is possible to stop the fire spreading, Dr. Nugent said. We think that if you really understand the facade and the cladding, you can make buildings and the people living inside safe. Well, there you have it. What a hell of a business plan. Hey, we'll just wrap the building in something that's fucking flammable, because then they'll have to pay us to come fix it. Bada bing, bada boom, another $1 million. Oh, but the builder's usually not held responsible. It's probably gonna fall on the people that live in the apartment building. And by fall on them, it could be either financially or unfortunately take their lives. So I'm probably just gonna email this video to all my representatives all the way up, because what the fuck, man. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe.